Welcome to the next episode of the Gallic War. Today, we're looking at the Battle of Bibracte. The Romans continued to pursue the Helvetii, hoping to force them into a decisive battle. Scouts reported that the enemies took up positions at the foot of a mountain. Julius Caesar had the nature of the mountain explored and ordered Titus Labienus, his deputy legate, to climb to the summit of the mountain with 2 legions. He himself advanced with the remaining troops directly towards the Gauls, sending his entire cavalry ahead of him. The experienced warrior Publius Considius is sent ahead with a couple of scouts. About 2 kilometers before Caesar and his troops reached the Gauls' camp, Considius returned to him at an eager gallop and reported that the mountain was not being occupied by Labienus, but by the Gauls, so the attack had failed. Caesar marched his troops to the nearest hill and waited. But when he saw nothing of the enemy, he sent for new inquiries. It turned out that Labienus was indeed occupying the mountain. He had been waiting for further orders all this time. In his fear, Considius told untruths, and thus destroyed the chance of an advantageous attack. The Helvetii had now moved on, and the Romans pursued them. The next day, Caesar realized that food supplies are becoming critical. In 2 days, he had to start rationing the soldiers' supplies, which of course would have a significant negative impact on combat effectiveness and morale. He was already clearly outnumbered and had to act quickly. Bibracte, the largest and richest city of the Aedui, was no more than 27 kilometers away, and so he turned with his troops and marched towards the city. The Helvetii viewed this as a sign of weakness. They wanted to finally cut off the Roman supplies and changed their plan. Now they began to persecute the Romans. After Caesar noticed this, he marched his troops to the nearest hill and sent his cavalry forward to intercept the enemy's advance guard. In the meantime, he gathered his troops. Halfway up the hill, he had the 4 experienced legions line up in 3 battle lines. At the top of the hill stood the 2 newly raised legions, plus auxiliaries. He also had the luggage taken to the top of the mountain. The Helvetii forced the cavalry to retreat and formed a phalanx. The edges of the shields were placed on top of each other to protect the person next to them. They approached the first line of battle from below. Caesar ordered the advance. The legionnaires began to throw their pila and thus tore large gaps in the Gauls' battle line. The Romans drew their swords and attacked. Most of the Helveti's shields were pierced by the javelins, making the fight difficult, as they could not tear them out. Most of the iron tips were bent too much. Therefore, many threw away their shields and preferred to fight without him. After a while, they began to retreat to a nearby mountain. The Romans advanced from below. The Boii and Tulingi attacked the Romans' unprotected right flank with around 15,000 men. They had previously held back to cover the rear guard. When the Boii and Tulingi attacked, the Helvetians gained new courage and attacked again. The Romans pivoted the 3rd battle line in order to be able to offer resistance to both sides. The first 2 fought against the Helvetii, the 3rd against the Boii and Tulingi. The fighting was long and intense, but the Romans gradually gained the upper hand. Some of the Gauls began to retreat to the hill, others to their carts. The battle began around midday, and by now it was deep into the night. There was still fighting at the carts. The Gauls had formed a fort from the carts and fought on bravely. But in the end, the wagon castle could also be taken. Augetorix's daughter and son were captured. Around 130,000 Helvetii were able to escape the battle and moved on. It is important to mention that this also includes women and children. After 4 days of restless marching, they reached the Lingonian territory, or rather their capital, Andimatunum. The Romans did not pursue them, but took a 3-day rest to care for the wounded and bury the dead. The rest was sorely needed. The legionnaires were emaciated and tired, and pursuing them would only have meant unnecessary losses. Caesar sent a threatening letter, to the Lingones, asking them not to supply the Helvetii with food. Otherwise, he would interpret this as a declaration of war. After resting, he set off with the troops. The Helvetii were tired of fighting and no longer had enough supplies. Therefore, they felt compelled to hand over their surrender to the oncoming troops. Caesar rode to the Helvetii camp and demanded hostages and weapons. He also wanted the defectors back. About 6,000 men from the Verbigenus tribe tried to flee into Germanic territory the following night, fearing the reprisals that would come. Caesar asked the tribes to seize those who were fleeing and bring them to him. They were killed without hesitation. He allowed the others to submit and serve him as subjects from then on. He ordered the Helvetians, Tulingi and Latobrigi to return to their original territory. But since there was no longer any food to harvest there, he ordered the Allobroges to support them with grain. He also ordered the Allobrogians to rebuild the destroyed cities and villages. He wanted to prevent there being empty areas where the Germanic tribes might settle. Furthermore, he allowed the Boii to settle on the land of the Aedui. In the Helvetii camp, lists were found in Gaulish, but written in Greek letters. The lists were a directory of all the names of those who had emigrated. The Romans numbered a total of 263,000 Helvetians, 36,000 Tulingi, 14,000 Latobrigi, 23,000 Raurici, and 32,000 Boii. The total number of emigrants was 368,000. After the battle, Caesar ordered a census, and they came up with a number of 110,000. It is impossible to say how realistic the numbers are. It can be assumed that, as is often the case, the numbers were exaggerated to glorify the own success. But the Battle of Bibracte clearly shows how, through discipline, a trained order of battle and bravery, the Romans could win against an enemy with much more men. The Roman troops were able to celebrate a major victory in the Gallic War for the first time. And with that, the Helvetii chapter ends and a new enemy comes into the spotlight. Who might this be? You'll see that next time. Your geek philosopher.